Welcome to the VA BLUF. I am your host, United States Marine Corps Staff Sergeant and Disabled Veteran Jesus Flores. BLUF is an old military acronym for bottom line up front. The idea behind BLUF is a simple one. We know you're busy, so we're cutting through all the noise and putting the important details about your healthcare first. The VA BLUF was created to bring you, the listener, into the senior leader and subject matter expert fold at the largest VA healthcare system in the nation. The VA BLUF is your access to the people who are providing your healthcare and that of 184,000 veterans living in North Texas. So here's the bottom line. Everyone listening to this podcast is either a veteran or knows a veteran. They know that veterans experience unique hardships that are exclusive to the veteran community. However, many out there don't know that VA employs people who are able and willing to help. It's why we're here. It's in our mission statement to care for those who shall have borne the battle and for their families and survivors. Today's topic is that of VA compensation claims. If you've been around veterans or know a veteran, you know, and you may have already heard it. Oh, the VA won't approve me for this, or oh, the VA won't approve me for that. So I went out and I found someone who is going to dispel a lot of those myths. Please welcome my guest, Mr. J.B. Edwards, Jr. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jesus. How you doing?
I'm okay. Thank you for coming up here.
All right. Nah, you don't have to call me Mr. J.B. Edwards. J.B.'s fine.
I can call you J.B. That's on the record. On the record, I call him J.B. Well, welcome, J.B. A lot of people don't know this about you, or maybe they do. You're a retired Sergeant Major Marine.
Yes, I am.
Why'd you choose the Marine Corps? Huh? I'm excited. I'm excited about having you on here. You're the first Marine I'm getting to, to get on the podcast. So I'm excited. I told my boss I was excited. I told my coworkers I was excited. So
well, let's get into
it. You tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I was a Marine. Picked Marine Corps because it was out of two services.
Okay.
It was either going to be the Air Force, the easiest, or the hardest. And the hardest had the best looking uniforms.
See, I know I'm not the only one. I knew I wasn't the only one. In fact, when they asked me, I was like, have you ever seen a Marine in dress blues? That's enough reason.
Yeah, you ever seen a Marine in his dress whites?
Yes.
That's even better.
Actually, when I got promoted to Staff Sergeant, I got the white trousers. So, yeah, I know. That looks even sharper.
That's pretty nice.
I know. I like the officers that wear all black and white. That looks really, really good, too.
It's kind of like a fashion statement almost.
Man, we are the best looking ones. There's no way around it. JB, tell me about your transition from the Marine Corps into the civilian world.
That portion of my life was probably the most difficult one.
Why is that?
Because just think, we left what's called a regimented structure environment. So for almost 30 years, I've been regimented structure environment where timing's everything and response to orders are paramount, and less questions and more answers are what we look at. Before we think about saying no, we have to look at how can we say yes. But when you're transitioning from a military environment like that and you're coming to the civilian environment, just like we're here at the VA, I can tell you when I came to work and I was walking in, I saw people walk in with bags that they were pulling. I saw people with their canes. I saw people who needed extra oxygen. And I saw people, in my eyes, I say, man, that person's way overweight. They got to be having some serious problem. And I had to have this moment of where I was like, so this is what the civilian world is like. If I saw a person that was overweight and in the Marine Corps, it would be like, Hey,
Oh, yeah.
what is going on with you? Well, I tell you what, I know what's going to be going on with you next. You won't have a long lunch. Your lunch is going to be short, and you'll be working out to get to where you need to be, unless there were some specific reasons, meaning more medical conditions that was causing it. But other than that, there's not really much of a reason. But coming to a civilian sector, and you hear how the response when the director would speak and say, this is what we want to do, and there would be more questions even after you've sat and answered questions. When they leave, it's like they had more questions. Nothing ever got, it seems like nothing was getting done. So it's like turtle pace at where I came from was, the op tempo was very high.
Yeah.
So the response to orders were immediate, where here, not so immediate. But that kind of made sense a little when you start transitioning. You're like, wow, I can actually calm down now,
Yeah.
Getting off work at 4:30 every day was like, what am I going to do?
It's awkward, right?
Right. What am I going to do after that?
I experienced that a little bit too as I was leaving from the Marine Corps into the civilian world. I didn't know what to do with my time. Everything was so planned out for me. I knew what I was responsible for.
Exactly.
I knew when I was responsible for it. I knew how to be responsible for it. And you get out and it's all gone.
It's all gone.
Did you find the VA? Did the VA help you transition?
Well, the VA actually, I can look at it as saving my life.
Really?
Really. This is no joking aside. Not because I work for the VA, it's because I left one deployment from Iraq. I came straight to recruiting, which is another high tempo.
Good God. I feel for recruiters.
Right, but so the tempo was, at the time I left, we controlled everything from here to the California line. Anything you heard that a Marine did wrong was the responsibility of myself and the colonel. That's all of our area. And so your phone that you carry, that phone is more like your driver's license almost, because you get phone calls in the middle of the night, especially when you get a phone call, for instance, a phone call in the middle of the night, and it's a recruiting station commander who's left a suicide message for his sergeant major. And this actually happened. He left a message for his sergeant major that he was going to commit suicide at the range where they go to do shooting. And this was in New Mexico.
And this is a Marine officer.
Marine officer.
Wow.
And when you have everybody's on the phone trying to call, he's not responding. The Marine Sergeant Major is in the middle of the night now heading out to this location to try to catch him before he actually does it. But by the time he gets there, hey, it's done deal. He had his dress blues laid out in his truck. He had written his note for his wife or what all to do. And it was a done deal. Wow. And that's the kind of, those things happen from one state to another. You can hear about a Marine out of San Antonio flipped a car, had a female pulley and a pulley being a person waiting to go to boot camp that's joined, had her in the car with them. And now they're both injured, but you find out she shouldn't have never been in the car with them at that time anyway. So those things are life-changing when you have Marines dying, committing suicide, and you're wondering what else could you have done to get through to them. And sometimes that's really hard. So when I talk about the VA saving me, I know I was what we call wine tight, meaning I was still in that mode of We have to take action now. We don't have time to waste. But coming to the VA taught me, hey, just calm down.
Just relax a little bit.
It'll be all right.
I still have a problem with that every once in a while. My wife says I'm a little wound tight.
And actually, my wife would say things like that, and I did have to see my doctor to get on some type of medication to help with the anxiety. So I'm one that will tell you there are some medication out there that's very good for helping with anxiety because it's hard to change.
Oh, very. Right? It's
very hard. So, and if you don't change, though, now you fail to adjust to the new lifestyle and the new work environment that you're in. Because if we treated the VA like the Marine Corps, and me having been a sergeant major, and I'm thinking in that same realm, I've probably been fired already. Yeah. So if I get fired, it seems like everything else just goes downhill from there, which is what I mean by save my life, because it gave me the opportunity to decompress from all the years of what we've been pushing and how we've been training. So that decompression is very important because it's more than you that's decompressing. Your family's decompressing.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is that your family gets to decompress as you decompress too.
Exactly.
My sisters called me out for being wound too tight. I didn't realize I didn't realize I was doing it, but they were like, everything sets you off. You got to be 0 to 100 for everything. It doesn't matter. It could be a broken pencil lead. Good God, why did this pencil just break?
Right.
So I credit VA with helping, bring me down too.
Well, when I saw you here at the VA and hearing that you're a devil dog, I was like, it's about time, somebody else joins that office. Yes. It was great to have you, just to see you. Not that the other veterans aren't great. I think all our veterans there, we make a great team. But still, it's still glad to have that camaraderie. So that was something I looked at as, wow, he's on board. I'm not worried about him leaving because normally when you get a lot of the Marines in, we're kind of loyal to where we're at, and we want to try to make the best of it while we're there. So welcome aboard. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. JB, you're continuing your mission. And by the way, we have a podcast called Charlie Mike, hosted by Mike Buchanan, which you can find on buzzsprout.com by searching Charlie Mike. You're continuing your mission now as a Veteran Service Officer Liaison.
Correct. What is it? Because one of the big parts of why I was actually hired here was to work on the relationship of the veteran community, especially in the area of our stakeholders. So these veteran service organizations are all around the VA. You'll see different members. You see the TVC, you'll see the DAV, you see the veteran service officers, you see the county service officers, you'll see the different groups that are having meetings all the time. You have the Metroplex Marines Council. So all those groups are who comes to me sometimes when they feel like they need to get a word to the director and they're not able to get it just from a phone call. And also saying that when there's a certain issue or concern that a veteran has out there that one of those service officers are dealing with and they can't seem to get an answer, that's where I come in.
Gotcha.
So they'll give me a call. I mean, we dealt with probably 2 or 3 issues just this morning. We have a veteran out in Azle that and this is the weirdest thing. I have a contact that I work with from the Veterans Benefit Administration, which is called the VBA.
Now, a lot of people don't know that VBA, VHA, and what they consider VA are not all the same thing.
And I will definitely clear that up before
please.
the day is over.
But I think people need to know.
Right. Just to finish out, so this veteran, the contact out of the VBA in Waco, she has a sister that lives in Hazel. There's a veteran out there who they believe is having something like a mental breakdown condition, because they can see that he started little by little, it's gotten worse, where he's now aggressive toward the neighbors. He's now following neighbors. So now they've called the police, and the police now is interested in talking with some of our doctors to find out, we want to do the best thing for this veteran, but at the same time, we got to make sure this veteran doesn't harm any of our neighbors nor himself. So that was one thing we worked with this morning, and trying to make sure, hey, these are the steps you take, and this is what you should do. This is who you can call. So we got that taken care of, and calls like that will come in, and those things aren't planned. So that's where I come in a lot of times with, I had another case with a representative from the vocational rehabilitation counselor was calling in reference to a doctor writing a letter for a veteran to say that, yes, this veteran can be looked at under the vocational rehabilitation program, because that program is a work program, not just a pay for your college program. So the doctor wrote the letter, and the veteran is supposed to be trying to go to school, but looking at the veteran's disabilities, the counselor was a little bit in between on how is he going to be able to maintain a job after this. So those are the things you talk through. So you talk with the counselor, you talk with the doctor, and try to come together on how we can make sure we take care of this veteran. And so we were able to come up with a good solution for the veteran that came out for the best of everybody.
And that is something that is not necessarily even claims related, right? I mean,
it's all, so the claims part, which we'll go over now, we can kind of venture into that a little bit, but let's just break down this thing on the VA. Under the umbrella of the VA, you have 3 administrations. You have the Veteran Health Administration, which is where we work.
Yes.
So in the service, if we have veterans listening, that's like going to medical, and then we have the Veterans Benefit Administration, which is all about your compensation. If you think college, if you think I'm getting my service connection check, I want to get extra money for being married now, anything like that. If someone passes away and the spouse rates the indemnity pay, then you think Veterans Benefit Administration, VBA, Victor Bravo Alpha. So, and the last administration under that umbrella is the National Cemetery. But all 3 of these administrations are like distant cousins.
Gotcha.
They only connect when they have to.
They only talk when they have
exactly.
to. Okay.
So so sometimes you hear a person say, yeah, the VA is not paying me or whatever. That's actually the VBA, because the VHA really doesn't do a lot of paying or anything. So
yeah, I was gonna say your doctor doesn't pay you.
Right. So that's a big difference. But so coming in, when I got here to the VA, I didn't file my claim for service connection yet.
Did you end up filing one?
I did. I filed one, but what happened was,
I was gonna say, if not, I know a guy that might be able to help you.
Well, what happened was, I didn't feel like I was getting enough information at the time. So having been that sergeant major, we're so used to, hey, where's the policy? Where's the order? I need to read it. I want to be able to see it. So the gentleman I work with by the name of James Wheeler, he goes by Jim, he was a Denton County service officer back in the days. And this gentleman was talking to me about the service connection. And I was saying, well, I don't want to turn in anything yet, because I don't feel like I know enough about this whole service connection and the benefits, because I said, once you turn it in, the only thing I've heard is you got to keep going back to request if you feel like your rating is not at the level it should be. So he took me to the county service officer down in Fort Worth first, because that's Tarrant County's area, and I live in Tarrant County. So when I saw him after the second visit, he explained that yes, we can turn everything in at one time, but I wasn't very good with that, because he was saying turn in, and I was saying, but you don't know what all I want to file for yet. And I don't even know what all I want to file for yet. I don't know all my conditions. So he had agreed to kind of walk me through that. And as I got better at it and walking through it, I knew, oh no, I'm not turning this in. So after you get off of active duty, once your last day of active duty, you have 1 year to still get everything done as if you're on active duty. So you can still go and get your appointments and all this done, and it still will count as if you were still on active duty for the most part. There are some reasons where it may not, but the majority will. So, and I started doing outreach. We had this outreach team. They would go out on the weekend and do the yellow ribbons. They would do different services, would meet in different places before COVID, of course, where you could meet these veterans, and the VBA representative was always there. So I would spend, if I had time during that day, I would go and talk with the VBA representative and ask him, okay, so if I say that my knees are bad and the rating comes back and says, no, your knees aren't bad. So I asked the representative, I said, have you ever served? They were like, no. So I said, well, who the freak are you to say what's wrong with me and what's not? And the representative kind of, had that look on their face like, oh man, this guy's about to go off on me or something. But it wasn't that. I was just asking the question like, how can you say what's wrong with me? So it came down to, when you're reporting this, there's a book that they're using. That book has every part of your body that can be service connected. It covers it.
Really?
Really. And it covers it to tells you like at what level. For instance, if you have migraines or if you have headaches, well, the migraines may be, if you have more than 2 or 3 a month, may be at 50%. But if you have less than that, now you just reduce your rating to possibly 30 or 0. And you don't know these things. So you would go into the doctor's office and you'll just say, well, I have headaches. If you just say headaches, that doesn't say migraines. It says headaches. So if he says headaches, that's probably a 0 to 10%.
Gotcha.
So those are the things I started to learn from talking with the Veteran Benefit Administrative representatives that were there. And that was very helpful because I did lots of outreaches and took time to learn, just reading and studying. And then when they finally said it, they said, the bottom line is you need to know what's in your medical record. So I sat my medical records out over a table, and it took me nearly 2 weeks to go through my medical record. I would leave everything right where it is. Nobody in the house knew. Don't touch anything he's got laying out, because I had this system, I guess. And I ended up building this system and putting it in a certain order where I had this table of contents page that talked about all my different conditions. I bought this folder portion that had like 31 different spaces where, okay, table contents number 1, if it had to do anything with A, meaning ankles or something, Well, anything that had to do with my ankle, feet, or something, all that went under one topic, one subject. So anything with my head, if I had head on there, that means it covered eyes, ears, headaches, all that. So that's how I ended up doing it. And I got off active duty in November, right before Thanksgiving. And I didn't file a claim till September of the next year because I wanted to take the time to make sure I at least put my best foot forward before I did it, because it was one of the most important things you would ever do, getting off of active duty.
So not everybody out there is going to be anywhere near as prepared as you were. You had, I guess for a lack of better terms, insider trading going on because you knew how this stuff worked. But the average Joe that walks into the VA who has no idea how claims work, what do you recommend or what do you think what's the first thing that they should do prior to seeking help with filing a claim?
So the first thing I would tell any veteran to do prior to filing a claim is make sure you get a good copy of your medical record before you get out. You need that copy of your medical record before you get out.
And if they can't or they don't know how, is there a place or anywhere after they get out that they can still?
Yes, they can still send off for their medical records at in St. Louis, where a lot of the records go. But for the Marine Corps records actually go to Quantico, where they're kept. But you still do the request through the records management for the actual VA that's located in St. Louis.
Gotcha. Okay. And they're good. They're also going to need their DD-214, right? I mean,
of course.
When they walk in there, I mean, you would think that by now, if you're in the service or you know a veteran, that the DD-214 is something that you would keep track of. But I've had Marines who have gotten out who a couple, I want to say about 6, maybe 7 months ago, a kid that was one of my lance corporals who is now getting out as a staff sergeant. Hey, brother, I have no idea how to get my DD-214. So is there a place where they can get that also?
Yes, so there's DD-214s are a little different. You can request that. You'll get one normally when you request your records. But you can also go to eligibility and see if they can send off for a DD-214, which you should be able to get within 24 to 72 hours.
Gotcha.
They should be able to get a copy of it if you were recently discharged.
Gotcha, okay.
But at the same time, what you were saying, just remember, service members can start 6 months prior to getting off active duty. They can file a claim. So what the VBA is doing today is they are having them file those claims early so they can actually get them with their, if they need appointments or anything, get all that done. So by the time they're out, their service claim is completed at the same time.
Oh, wow. Is that something that just they've started implementing during the pandemic, or has that been in the works? Or?
That's been in the work for a few years. I just don't know how many people are aware of it, and I don't know how many are actually using it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had no idea that was going on. JB, does something have to be in my medical records for me to claim it?
No.
No.
It doesn't. That's you want it to be in your medical record, but there's a policy that the VBA has too that explains that if a service member can explain the conditions or symptoms that he's having from this condition, and he can explain the event in service that caused it, that can be enough evidence to where he will get an appointment to go to see a doctor who can look at it and then kind of validate what he's saying. So everything in there doesn't have to be in your medical record, but what you want to do is go see a doctor for it, at least to show, hey, it's not in my medical record because I self-medicated, so I used over-the-counter medications. Because for any veteran, if you were trying to get ahead in the service, The last thing you wanted to do was run the medical every time you had some aches and pains.
Yeah.
So if you hurt, you just self-medicated and kept it rolling. So that's something that I wish the VBA would look at closer, to give more leniency in that area, because a lot of service members who did really well in the service, you won't find a lot in their medical records because they were too busy with their careers and fighting that pain and wrapping their knee up or wrapping that ankle up and not running to medical for it.
Once I've started the process of submitting for a claim, can I keep coming back to add to it, or does it all have to be turned in at one time?
No, you can add as much as you want. There's nothing to say that you have to put everything in initially, because sometimes there are some things that become secondary. So you may have some secondary items or secondary conditions that may come up that will require you to go back in to put in a claim.
So a little while ago you said, maybe I have to go see a doctor. That's not a VA doctor, right?
Doesn't matter what doctor.
Gotcha.
It can be your own personal doctor. It can be a VA doctor. It can be you went to urgent care. You went to the emergency room. Doesn't matter as long as you have the documentation.
Gotcha. Okay. So from the moment that I get out, is there a time limit to how long I can wait? Or
so what you want to do is, when you get out, you have 1 year if you want to be paid, or let me back up, be compensated for any conditions that you may have from the day you got out of service. If you wait longer than that year, then the day you turn in the claim is the day your compensation will start. So basically, let's say like I got out in January. I got off active duty in November, but got out in January. Last day of active duty was January. Well, I have to January of the next year if I still want to be my compensation to start being paid from the time I got out. If I go past that January 31st of the next year, then my compensation starts February or however later I waited to turn it in.
Gotcha. Okay. What would you say to somebody who says, oh, I'm just not that bad, or I'm taking money away from someone else, and that's why they're not submitting a claim?
So what you're saying I hear quite often, because we have a lot of service members that really care about other service members. So they feel like my injury is not as bad as someone who may have lost a limb. So that person will need it more. So what I say to all those veterans are, in order for us to be able to make sure we're having the right doctors and can provide the proper care for that veteran, we still need you to be in our system. The VA works off of the amount of veterans in the system, not the amount of veterans out of the system. So I will advise every veteran in our area, in our catchment area, which averages probably around 400 to 500,000 veterans in our catchment area, that are available to at least get in the VA system. And I would advise all of them to get in the VA system, because we help each other when we do that.
I've tried for years to get, the guys that I was overseas with. I mean, we're coming up on 11 years now since we got back from Iraq. And I've reached out to them, now that they know I work for VA, some of them have reached out to me. And I'm like, yeah, I can put you in contact with people. I go, but I want to know why you didn't, submit for your claim initially. You didn't even take advantage of the 5 years of healthcare that are offered after we get back from deployment. Now they got back problems, knee problems. Some of them are overweight. The change in lifestyle really affected them. And so I'm trying to get them to, if I can't get to them, at least get to the Marines that they trained. Like I said, the staff sergeant a couple of months ago. I'm trying to get to them. But, it's like, sometimes it's like herding cats. I mean, you saw it. You were a Marine. I know some of these guys they're just too prideful, and they don't want to admit that they need help. Got another question for you, JB. So I submit my claim. It goes up the food chain. It gets denied. Is there a process for me to resubmit? And is there a number of times that I can resubmit, or is there a limit?
So when it comes a time when your claim is denied, there is a process for asking for turning in a notice of disagreement where you're saying, I don't agree with what you gave me. And can I say that there's a limit? I can't say that. It depends on the condition. It depends on what level the appeal went to when you turn it in. And also, if you do want to go back, that means that there were probably some things that either was overlooked or some things that may need to be documented a little more in order for you to get that approval. But there is a process for all of that. Yes.
Gotcha. Right as we're getting ready to start wrapping this up, my last question for you. What do you think we as VA North Texas need to continue doing to increase the trust in VA?
We need to keep being transparent.
Transparent. It's a good word.
We need to be transparent about the care. We need to continue to be truthful and continue to work at providing great customer service to our veterans, because we are American heroes. And a lot of us, even though we are not wearing the uniform, wouldn't mind still standing in line if the country called.
Oh, you know we would.
So I would just say, as long as we're transparent about being where we know when we make a mistake, we can admit to a mistake, but we can also learn and make sure that mistake doesn't occur again. As long as we're truthful about how we're taking care of our veterans, I think we'll have a good shot at being one heck of a VA.
That's a really good answer. Well, thank you so much for coming out here today. I appreciate your time. Like I said, I was excited about getting you on the show. And so thank you so much. That's all the time we have this week. I want to thank Mr. Edwards, JB, for coming on and taking the time out of your busy schedule. Thank you for tuning us in and leaving us on. I encourage you to tell your friends and family about the VA BLUF. You can search for us on social media by searching for the VA BLUF. That's THEVABLUF on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. You can catch this in all episodes of the BLUF on buzzsprout.com or wherever you get your podcasts. I want to give a thanks to singer-songwriter and friend of the show, Cole Reisner, for letting us use his music. For everyone that made this one possible, thank you so much, Bluffers. I'm Jesus Flores.